growing up, I was definitely a hustler. As I grew older, I started to realize, the whole concept of a 9 to 5. They go to a job every day they don't like, and they have to go to support their family. And 9 to 5 was not going to be an option. You have to find ways to monetize your passion. We were sitting on a couch, and I said, I really love this stuff. I think I want to learn to DJ. And another kid in the room was like, oh, well, everyone says that. And then my boy was like, no, but like Heller's different. That's all I needed. And from then on, like I just kind of got obsessed with it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jersey Girl Podcast. My name is Madison, and I'm your host. And today I have a very exciting guest on. We actually worked together a while ago. So Josh, why don't you introduce yourself?
How we doing? My name's Josh. So Madison and I, we met through Rumble. It was just like a boxing type thing, but a little introduction on myself. Right now I'm currently doing DJing, and I run a little events group. It's called the Electronic Tribe. And essentially the goal with that, or the mission statement, if you will, is it's for DJs to connect in more like intimate style events. So I have a community of DJs where I have all these DJs, come in, join the community, share music, talk to each other. And then I run events, in major cities. We do NYC, and we're going to be doing New Orleans as well. And essentially the DJs will send me mixes, and we'll have kind of a culmination of our DJs perform at these intimate style boiler room type events. And the goal with that is so you really have like an authentic type event. So that's my current, endeavor. But as since as long as we've known each other, there's been a few different endeavors that I've dipped my toes into.
Yeah, you're like me. You do a lot of different avenues of things. It's not just one straight path, I feel like.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a little background of your childhood? Where do you go to college now? What are you studying? Stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. So my childhood, I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey. Growing up, I was definitely, a hustler, if you will. Yeah. I started off, I used to do I used to sell shoes, sell cards, do whatever I can to try and have some type of business. I always liked the idea of that. And, as I grew older, I started to realize, the whole concept of, a 9 to 5 and the unfortunate reality that, and the unfortunate existence that most people live, where they, they go to a job every day they don't like, and they have to go to support their family. And as I started to see that loop, I was like, I have to somehow break out. And so for me, from a young age, I already knew that a 9 to 5 was not going to be an option.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what sparked a lot of my, different ventures. I grew up in Livingston, and then I made my way. Now I'm at Tulane University. And over there, I'm going to be, doing some stuff doing some events down there in NOLA. But I think that's really where I started the DJing. Is the group of my friends, we had a very good music culture. So I was always into this type of music. But I think now I've kind of found a way to take it as a skill, like DJing, and monetize that skill through events and stuff like that. I think that's super important. And as I've grown up, I've realized that too, is that, if you're gonna break out of the 9 to 5 loop, you have to almost find ways to monetize your passion essentially, and make money, ways to make money off your passion, right? So I loved music. At school, I found kind of a love for, electronic music. And it sounds a little screwed up, but the first thing that came to my head is like, well, I love this. How can I make money from it? Because, and it's not in a way where, you can't enjoy it separate from money, but it's more so in a way that I'm looking for stuff that I'm passionate about. At this age, it's important to find stuff to pursue long term. So my first thing that comes to mind is, how do you monetize this? And, between DJing, between doing these events through the Electronic Tribe, I think that's a good way. So that's kind of how, my childhood led me to where I am now. I had a pretty boring childhood. Nothing much to talk about. But yeah, I spent my summers at camp in Pennsylvania. I grew up with a sister, and she definitely had a good influence on my life as far as someone to look after. Gives me a little bit more responsibility. I think that also translates into the business side of things, and that's a skill set in itself.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about like when you're growing up trying to break out of the cycle, I was the same way. I hated school. I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I didn't want to be stuck in like a corporate world. I wanted to do my own thing. I want to like work for myself. So I totally relate to you on like, I don't want to do the 9 to 5. I want to follow my passion, because that's like what I've noticed is when people follow their passion, they're more fulfilled in life than if they follow like the track of like a normal 9 to 5 or the normal, like, let me just do a job just to make the money and move on. Let me just make good money and I don't really care.
Yeah, 1,000%. They did a study, I think it was like 2014, and it's like one of the biggest survey studies ever, like the largest sample size. And it was asking people on their deathbed, like, what's your number one regret? And like by like a large majority, the most common answer was, I wish that I lived my life, something along the lines of like, I wish to live my life to fulfill my own kind of desires rather than to make everyone else happy. And I think that kind of, exemplifies the whole thing about, the whole 9 to 5 loop that everyone gets stuck in. And I think that like you said, from a young age, when you have the desire to break out of it, you just know, and that's never going to be an option for you. And I feel the same way.
You don't want to like get stuck in that. So we're talking about going to college, and this is like the prime time to figure out what you want to do with your life, where you want to go. How did you settle on DJing? I know you kind of mentioned it earlier, but how did you fully be like, hey, I want to start a company? How did it go from like DJing at like a bar to like, oh no, I'm gonna start my own company like with DJing?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I think that college is a weird phenomenon, right? Because it's like, you go pay all this money. A lot of the times you study something that you're probably not gonna, do, especially for me, right? Because my major is kinesiology, which is like exercise science. I originally thought I was gonna go into physical therapy, and that's not what I want to do anymore. And so I'm still there getting a degree, but I think that there are other benefits aside from just what you learn in the classroom and what you get with the degree. And I think part of that is like being on your own, having that gaining some responsibility, and you kind of finding yourself a little bit. So to answer your question is like, it really started like around the time of like Mardi Gras, which is a lot of electronic music, a lot of festivities per se, and I just got like really felt like resonated with that type of music. And I'm never gonna forget this, but I have one really good friend. He's a few years older, and he's a phenomenal DJ, phenomenal producer. And the moment I started, he was very inspirational, because I remember it was like 5 a.m, late night Mardi Gras. We were sitting on a couch, and I said like, oh, like I really love this stuff. Like, I think I want to learn to DJ. And another kid in the room was like, oh, well, everyone says that. And then my boy was like, no, but like Heller's different. And like, so I think honestly, that's just the point I want to stress. It's like having a friend that like is around you to like push you like that and be like, nah, like he's different. Like he can do it and he can be successful. Like that was huge. And from then on, like that's all I needed. Like that's all I needed. And from then on, like I just kind of got obsessed with it. Like it went into, DJing. I got an opportunity at a club called Ohm Lounge in New Orleans. And that's an awesome spot. But I'll be doing that again this year. But that's an awesome spot. So I got my start there. I just started picking up some venues, and I learned how to produce, which is completely different from DJing. DJing is almost like DJing's learning. I've heard this before. It's like DJing is learning how to ride a bike, which is it's kind of like a skill that you learn, and you can get better at it, right? There's professional bike riders, but it's like the basic skill. Once you have it, you never forget it. And a lot of people can learn how to do it basically. But then producing is almost like learning how to engineer the bicycle. There's sound design, there's mixing and mastering, there's sound selection, and then you gotta you need to be musically inclined in order to like make synth patterns and all this type of it's a whole new skill in itself, and it's much more complicated. And the reality is that too is what kind of makes DJs big. Like if you think of John Summit, all the big names, they all got their start with produce. They all like got their fame from producing. So yeah, that's what really started me. That I kind of have that obsessive personality, which can be a blessing and a curse, right? Like I was always the kid where like I'd buy a video game and I'd play it for freaking 12 hours until I went to bed. And then it's the same thing with when I'm picking up a new skill, like DJing or like sales, for example. And I think it's like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. So as I got obsessed with it, I just picked it up more, played at more venues, and here we are today.
I also have that obsessive where I'm just like, once I start something, I have to go full in, whether it's like a clothing brand or it's like the podcast or it's like a social media agency. No matter what I'm doing, I will always give 100%. And it can be good and bad. Either I get really obsessed and I'm like, okay, that's kind of boring. Like, let me try something else. Or it can be like I can really find my passion and love for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good trait. And I'd say it's like, it's almost like people like to say an addictive personality per se. And you could consider it that, but it's just about channeling it into the right things, right? If you're channeling it into something like, eating poor food or drugs or something like that, it could hurt you there. But as long as you channel your drive and your obsessiveness into the right things, I think that's a trait that highly successful people have. So
also, I think another trait is the risk taking of like, you can't just say you want to start a business without taking the risk of like financially or even just like, the stable 9 to 5. You could leave that to do that. I know we talked about like on, the other day on the phone about like the risk taking and how that is a strong trait of someone who wants to do their own thing.
1,000%. Yeah. I mean, especially at this age, I feel like, I mean, for me, like I said, like I was doing, real estate wholesaling a little bit before the DJing and some other, jobs. And I just said to myself, like, this is going well, the DJing, and I had this vision that I wanted to start my own group, and I was like, I'm just gonna go all in. Like at this age, we have the luxury, where like if you fall on your ass a little, then like you're fine. Like and you don't have to, we still have parents to support us. We still have food on our table, and we have to be grateful for that. And I think it would almost be ungrateful to not take this time to take risks, and like. This is the time that you have to essentially, this is the time that you have to use to break out of the 9 to 5, because when you're 40 with kids and a spouse and you have a family to support, you're almost stuck in that loop that we're talking about, the rat race, if you will. So yeah, like I said, I mean, for anyone out there, including, I mean, this is advice to ourselves too, is that this is the time to just go for it, take risks. And that's in anything you do.
Yeah. Same with my parents. My parents are always like, do it while you're home with us, or we can help you instead of going out on your own, and you're like on your own. We can financially support you. We want to help you. So don't wait until you're like married with kids. Do it now while you're still like young, you're single, you can do whatever you want. There's no one like telling you what you can and can't do. Yeah.
And even financials aside, like we definitely have the luxury that like if we fall down, we'll have maybe our parents pick us up financially. But this is even the age where like, this is the best age to be broke, right? Because like I said, there's no family to support. There's no spouse. It's a very risk coherent age, because just for those reasons, even financials aside, like I think that like if I went all in and I, fell down tomorrow and had no money, I could start something else. I could try it again. I think it's about taking what you learn and about investing in your knowledge and yourself right now. And that's the best method to get out of this kind of 9 to 5.
Yeah. I want to circle back to Rumble, because that was a big part of like, I feel like my, learning what I want to do, especially with sales. I learned a lot about sales, and you were a really good salesperson. You always beat us in the monthly challenge of who can sell the most. So much you left, I got it back. But whenever you were there, you always, got the number one spot. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like your sales tactic? Because you could sell anything. Like someone would come in and somehow you would sell them. I couldn't sell them, but you could get them to like spend that extra cash on a Rumble membership, because it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, for sure. And like I was even one time where like it was like we were at the summer fest, and like that this girl didn't even know Rumble, and I sold her like most people do like the BOGO first, and it was like my first day one of my first days on the job, and I sold her like a full like the highest tier membership. Yeah, and like she never came to Rumble. I was like,
before. Who is this kid? Why is he here? Why is he taking the spot?
Everyone was like, like where did this kid come from? But essentially the way, so this goes back to what we were just discussing about the the obsessiveness. Yeah. And this guy who had a very big influence on me. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's kind of blowing up now. His name's Alex Hormozi. And he has this book called 100 Million Offers, and this video on the internet. I recommend that. And if anyone wants to get into sales, they watch this video. It's literally called the best sales training on the internet. And it is 100% without a doubt the best sales training on the internet. Because I watched that video 5 times, took notes on it, and just little psychological tactics that I learned. And I think that's what it was about for me. Is like, it's Rumble, right? A lot of people a lot of the people that we worked with. I mean, I wouldn't say this necessarily for us, but a lot of people we worked with, they were going to get the paycheck. Yeah. I was there to learn the skill. And I think that's what's important, is like at this age, a little bit less focus on money. And this is my mentality, and we'll see how this goes for me, but a little bit less focus on money for now, and more focus on building the skill set. So my goal was literally just to go and improve at sales. Like I want to be able to sell. I want to be able to be influential. I want to be persuasive. I want to improve my people skills. And so those are all things that I had in my head going like when I got hired for the job. And so that's essentially what the way I, carried myself out of the job. Is every time I did something, I didn't make a sale, I'd write down why didn't I make this sale? What was this person's objection?
Yeah.
That's very important. Is objections was super important, and finding essentially a response to every single objection that could possibly exist. I even made like flow charts.
Wow.
And that was like, it sounds like crazy. It sounds psychotic, but it was almost like, I wasn't concerned about selling the membership and getting the $200 Amazon gift card. I was concerned about really maximizing, my summer and saying, I want to walk away from this summer and come back to school with a skill set of sales. And that's a skill set that I'm going to take with me. And it definitely worked. I mean, that was, I definitely learned the skill. And I mean, thanks to, Alex Hormozy and some of his stuff, and thanks to, my own experience, now I'm able to take that skill set and apply it into a different realm, which is the music events world, which I actually enjoy a little bit more, because similar to Rumble, instead of like being some high profile business meeting, it's very casual stuff. I can use the same style of sales I did with Rumble, where it's, you can joke around with the client. You can, make some casual analogies. It's not super formal. So I like that about how that translates into what I'm currently doing. And yeah, I mean, that's like kind of the overarching, the overarching sales spew that I have. But if you have specific questions about certain tactics and stuff like that, I can answer that as well.
What were the biggest like objections people had to when you were trying to sell them? Yeah. Was it like the money? Was it the commitment? Yeah. So a lot of the times it's a lot of times it's commitment. And what I always said is like, you also have to acknowledge their concern. Like you say, like, it's a big commitment. Yeah.
And then I would usually respond with a question like, what are your, like, get them to explain their goals and talk, and get them to kind of almost see the vision of like what their life's going to be like at Rumble. And I would almost say, cause I think this gives you some credibility, I'd be like, it is a big commitment. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Cause I think that you're not, instead of just saying all this positive stuff, you're acknowledging maybe it's going to be hard. You're not telling them it's going to be easy. And that way you're almost building credibility with them. It's like a little bit of a psychology. And then from there, you start with that. And then what you say next is almost emphasized more, because you gave yourself some credibility there. So you'll say something along the lines of, it is a very big commitment. But I mean, anytime you want to change your physique, and anytime you want to, build a new body, it's going to take that commitment. And this is like a fun outlet, and it's a fun way to do it. And then I would almost sometimes, give my story about how, like, I enjoy Rumble, and how, like, why I think it's a good method of working out. And I think that's very important, is like building credibility as an objection. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, you may make an excuse about money and this and that. And I stole this from the same guy, Alex Hormozy, but it was a analogy I always use about, he said something along the lines of, you could pay $100 for a pair of pants at the mall and look good in that pair of pants, or you can pay $100 a month at Rumble and look good in any pair of pants and have your like high school physique. And I remember I used that one time after like a demo and gave a speech, and like 7 people signed up after. So it really is just about like, and the thing I loved about selling Rumble is like, those are all true statements.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I was lying and making up, BS to trick these people. Like we were selling a product that was generally helping these people's lives. And I think that's key with sales, is like, you have to believe in the product, and you have to say things that are true. Otherwise, you're not going to build the credibility. And all those things, as maybe, you could think it's maybe a little manipulative. It's really not, because you're just simply saying the truth. You're just almost presenting it to them in a clear way, where they can, it makes them, see the benefits of the product.
I think also with sales too, it's all about creating the community and being like a people person. You have to like understand what people are thinking and how to like work your way in to get the sale.
100%.
I think also with Rumble, I learned that when you want to create a business that's successful, you have to create a community around the business. You have to create like a brand image. Obviously, we have to create like your target market. You have to make a community. You can't just like sell to people and just like leave them high and dry. You have to create that community. Yeah,
and that's something I honestly want to pick your brain a little bit on, because you're really good at the social media stuff. And I know, like, for me, I've been trying to build a brand for my electronic tribe, for this kind of events group and this DJ network. And I've been struggling a little bit, because it's hard. It's like, you think every reel you post, I was posting those quote reels, you think every reel is just going to blow up. You think, oh, this is the one. And then, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I know you have a very creative mind with that, but what do you think the key is, some of that's like, social media is?
I think the key to a lot of it is just like knowing your target market and knowing what they want to see. You have to like know what times to post. Like, if you're doing teenagers that are in school, you can't post at like 12 when they're in school. You have to post at like, 3 or 5 when they're out of school, or you got to post at like early in the morning before they get to school. You can't post during it. So I think knowing like the little behind the scenes of like know the timing, also knowing like what's trending now. So I sit on TikTok for hours. I scroll, and it's not me scrolling to be like, just going for screen time. It's no, I'm doing research. And people don't understand that. But I think knowing like what your target market you want is and knowing how to hit those people is the best thing.
100%. That's definitely something that's tough, is like, especially when you're just throwing it out there at Instagram. It's like, how do I want to reach DJs and people that are into music, obviously. It's like, how do I really reach those people? I mean, I'm posting stuff about it, but I think that's definitely key, is like once you hit that audience, like I know that the stuff I'm putting out there is good. So I know when those people see it, it's gonna get good engagement. It's just about getting those people to see it and just getting the attention, which is the hard part. I think.
Just all a game. Like Instagram and social media is such a game, trying to figure out like, what's gonna go viral. And also some of it's just like, you just gotta keep posting. You can't just like post once a day. You got to post like twice a day or 3 times a day. You can't just you gotta keep consistent, because consistency is key to starting and making a successful business, in my opinion.
I think another phenomenon too that like we kind of go through at our age is like, you see all these guys now, and they're all selling courses and they're all selling gurus, and you never know like who's legit and who's not. And it's just like hard as a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old to sit there and be like, well, listen to me, like whether you're giving advice or whether you're showing something cool. It's hard to really get the credit. I think the age almost interferes with the credibility a little bit sometimes, because it's like, well, we haven't really done enough cool shit to I think like the more, that's what I've said, is like I'm almost like in a rush to blow up. But I think maybe something that an epiphany I've had lately is like the more of cool events I do, the more cool stuff I'll have to post. And then I think eventually, as I kind of culminate a bunch of cool content, then I can start being like, all right, now's the time to blow up. But I think almost I've had a bit of an unrealistic expectation. It's like, I really just haven't done enough cool shit to have like a cool page. It's just, it sounds simple, but it's the reality.
Yeah. I think also at a young age too, we have to do all the experience, like you were saying, because like when people come to me and they look at my resume, they look at my LinkedIn, they see I've done all these cool things. I may be 19, but I've done like all these different cool events. I've done different internships. I've done different like classes and stuff like that. So I think gaining, as we're getting older, the credibility is what's helping us. Also, people see us and like, oh, you're cute, you're 19, you want to let me help you out. And then it helps you, your age too. It may be like a downside to what you're doing, but it's also a good thing. Yeah. People want to help you.
I don't know if that's like the image that you want. Yeah. Like, or at least, for me, like, but yeah, that's almost what I'm saying, is like sometimes it's hard to be taken seriously. Like, right? Like a lot of, especially in the DJ and the music world, a lot of people are older. I mean, considering that, the nightclub business in itself is only people over 21 can even go. But I like if you're talking about DJs and club owners, like a lot of them are, in their late 20s, 30s. So it's like, why listen to a 21-year-old? And I think that's a fair point. Yeah. And I think it's just about, getting more, cool stuff, cool events, more experience under our belts. And then I think as that happens, and if we continue to stay consistent with the content, I think the dividends will pay. This
also came to my mind about like the brand image and how to reach more people. I think people also want to see the person behind the brand. They don't want to just see like, because I think it gives you more credibility as a brand if they see that there's someone behind the brand. It's not just like a random person who's sitting behind their computer trying to make money. They see it's like an actual genuine person who has the best interest at heart of business.
Definitely. No, I think like what you're getting at is like authenticity. I think that's like super important. And even I know like people I listen to and the people that I resonate with, they're all authentic, I mean, you can people have such a good, because of all the scrolling and the stuff like that, people have such a good radar now, radar. Like imagine like, all those like school gurus you see now, and you're just like, like phony, you're scrolling through. Like I think just because there's so much, people have built like a really good radar for that. So I think you're not going to make it, like it's almost a requirement to be authentic, or you're not going to make it at this point.
Well, you see people that blow up like Alex Earl. She is authentic to her brand. Yeah. And she's an authentic person. She doesn't just post what she wants to post. She is like showing her getting ready to have already being hungover. She's showing that like she's only doing products that she believes in. You can tell that. You can tell when someone's just promoting a product because they want the paycheck, not because they believe in the brand. 100%.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think it's also cool when you get to a spot like that, because she also has the luxury where like she doesn't need to promote some dumb product. Everyone's reaching out to her about every product, so she can really pick and choose, this product's generally good. I generally use this product, and I'm sure they'll be happy to be partner with her. So it's almost like when you get to that stage, you have the luxury of you can pick stuff that aligns with your values, aligns with what you've been putting out there, and that kind of allows you to maintain the authenticity, which I think is cool. But
so circling back to your electronic tribe and all that.
Yeah.
So in starting that company, what were the starting steps of creating that brand, that image, that logo? Like, what did you sit down and do it all, or the kind of just like throughout the weeks, it just kind of everything just kind of came to you?
Yeah. So honestly, it's kind of like a funny story. Is like I literally just like thought of it. Like I thought of the idea just like one night, and I was like, all right, like I gotta start. I'm starting tomorrow. Like I didn't plan anything out. I was like, you know what? It would be really cool. Like the thing that honestly sparked the start is that I was about to DJ at a club, and someone texted me. This may not make sense to you if you're not, familiar with the different genres of music, but I'll give a little explanation. I was in a group chat with a bunch of DJs. I was about to perform at this club, and the promoter or one of the DJs or whatever texted all of us, and he's like, make sure you guys play tech house tonight, which is like it's like a very mainstream genre of house music, which I'm not a very big fan of. I like more melodic stuff, more more funky stuff, like stuff with a little more substance, not just the general tech house. I think it's very overplayed. And I thought like that made me realize like DJing is just almost losing its like culture. Like I think a lot of people just play to please the crowd, and they play what's cool. But how many DJs do you actually know now this is what I was thinking to myself. I was like, how many DJs do I actually know that have their own unique style and can share, unique tracks with people, and not just go to a club and play John Summit, play Dom Dalla and all the big names and the big songs, like, or all these remixes. And so the fact that he was telling us, you guys have to play that, I just didn't show up. I mean, it really upset me because I was like, this is there's no culture here. There's no style. It's lost its style. And I was like, I think what I need to do to bring back some of this style is create a community of DJs who all want to have their own style. And then they can, connect with other DJs in their style and share, music in that specific style. I think that, like, imagine if the vision I had was like, if I have 1,000 DJs in this group and a little section within the group for every genre, imagine how like diverse these DJs libraries will become that are all part of the group. And so I literally just got this idea, and I was like, all right, I'm starting tomorrow. I think that's the way you got to go about this stuff, because if you spend enough time thinking about perfecting it, you're going to talk yourself out of it. So I just started the next day. I literally made I put together a Discord community. I just started posting stuff to advertise it. And then as I just kind of went with it, I started to, polish it up a little more. I got like a professional logo done. I decided, okay, well, where am I going to take this? Like, because it was just a Discord group. I was like, where am I going to take this? And I was like, I think the best way to really monetize this is to do very like intimate style events where these DJs, I could have DJs of different style. Maybe one that plays techno, one that plays more my style, which would be like indie dance and that type of stuff. And I thought like that would be a cool way to go with it, is essentially an events group. And then maybe down the line, I'm thinking about a record label as well. But
okay.
So that's literally, I just had the idea one night, started the next morning, and from there, which I'm still doing today, is just adding to it and picking up on that, trying to build the brand. And I think it's definitely become something a little bit. Like we did our first event last Friday, and it was a lot of like. So as it came as a surprise to me that it was very stressful. Like a lot of stuff came up. Security canceled an hour before. Speakers weren't working. And it's just a lot of fixed problem solving on the fly, which I think that in itself is a good skill to build for if you're going to be an entrepreneur, is problem solving. Because that's really all an entrepreneur does, I think. So I learned that. And I mean, that's honestly what I'm still doing, is just going with the flow and solving problems along the way, adding ideas. But right now, the vision I see with it is just an events group. So I'm planning some stuff in New Orleans, maybe a little boiler room style event, which is, like I said, it's, DJ in the middle, intimate, very focused on being in the present and dancing. None of that bottle service, none of that stuff. It's just like it's just everyone's in a little, circle, and they're dancing and they're very present, which I really enjoy. And I think people, the more they expose themselves to it, will enjoy as well. But I'm looking to do maybe like a taco restaurant in New Orleans
fun.
in the coming months. So that will be cool. And I want to do more stuff like that, like these boiler room style events. And that's kind of where I want to take it as of now, but that could change tomorrow. Who knows?
How many people do you have in your Discord group now?
Yeah. So right now it's about 50 to 60 people, which is like, it's honestly, that's a lot of DJs, right? Because every person in there is a DJ or producer. So that's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different creative flow in one group. But I hope that in the coming months, as I start to put out more content and kind of do these events, I want to get to like over 1,000 members in the next few months. I think that would be a good spot where I could really make an impact with it. And really, like, a lot of these DJs build their libraries, and it'll just be a lot of just creative flow in there. That's like the vision I have.
If there's a DJ listening like now, why should he join your Discord out of like another one?
Yeah, I would say just for those reasons I just stated, is like my community is unique because it's really about diversifying your library and finding your style, right? A lot of DJs now that they've almost lost style. Like they have a million different playlists, like, you know, house, techno, all these, and that's good to have, you know, be diverse. But I think it's almost like if you go out there and please the crowd, yeah, you'll have a higher approval rate as far as like more people will like you. But if you go out there and you have your own style and you play stuff that, you know, people aren't familiar with, like maybe less people will approve, but the people that do approve, those are going to become, you know, they're going to become subscribed to you. They're almost going to be supporters. Those are people that when you have a set next weekend, they'll be like, oh, Josh Heller's playing, I'm going to go to that set because I liked his style. Instead of if I just went and played a different type of music everywhere else and, you know, please the crowd just to get a higher approval rating. I think it's more important that you really resonate with a smaller group of people. And I think that's what Electronic Tribe, that's the whole goal around it is like, I want DJs to come in there and find their style, right? You can go into any channel within that Discord and you can see, okay, this is the techno channel. You can talk to other DJs who already have, you know, taken on that style and, you know, have sent, you know, some unique tracks, maybe some of their own music and you know, there's even sections where you can talk about producing that style of music. And I think that's really the goal is like, DJs can join and really find their style in my group. It's not just it's a networking group, but it's not just a networking group. It's more of like a group for people to come in and find their style. And the networking is going to come naturally through that as you bond with people that have similar tastes to you and similar interests. And I think eventually I'm going to take it somewhere like as one benefit of being in the group is that you'll have the opportunity to play at some of these events. So as I do these boiler rooms in New York City and these boiler rooms in New Orleans, and hopefully eventually within the next few years expand all over the country. We even have members right now in the group from like Italy and Israel, like all over the world. So and maybe eventually I'll do some events there. But I think that's the goal is like, if you're in the group, you can, you know, send a mix and get involved with, you know, these intimate style events. And that's really, I really want it to be like a very authentic intertwined community instead of just, you know, a superficial group at networking. Hey, where are you from? Like I want it to be, you know, very authentic.
In the next couple of years, where do you see your company going? And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but like really, like where do you want like in the next 5 years this company going?
And that's a tough question. And like that's something I have to work on is definitely doing more of like a 5-year, 10-year, you know, even 3-year plan. Cause I try to stay very in the moment. As far as like the next few years, I'm still at school for the next 2 years. So I'm definitely going to really make my presence known in New Orleans and in New York City in the summers. Maybe I'm thinking about doing, my style of music is very popular in Tel Aviv and I've been talking to some DJs there. So I may potentially next summer go out there. That's something I've thought about, but no, I think I want to really just focus on these events. I think that people are getting sick of the you know, the club, just the regular nights at a club. It's like, you know, the bottle service, all that. It's money. You go spend a lot of money on drinks and all that. I think that people are craving more of this old style of like a rave or an intimate style event where the focus is being in the present and the focus is dancing. I think that's what really a night out should be about, right? It should be like a break from, you know, all the stress in your life. It shouldn't be like, okay, we're gonna go get bottle service, sit down at the table. I think it's more just get there, listen to music and dance and just let loose. And that's like what really, I think will bring people happiness. And I could see this style of event really taking off within the next few years. So I'm just going to honestly try and do as many of these events as possible, push them out and learn along the way. Like I already learned so much from this first event. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to do differently on the next one as far as like production and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think the next few years is just get my degree, and, you know, put on as many events as possible, build a following, and then see where it goes from there. If I want to turn it into something else, I'll turn it into something else. And I'll adapt. And I think a lot of the times that's a key thing I've started to learn too, as I've gotten into like the entrepreneurial world. And I'm only scratching the surface, obviously, but you look at the people that were successful during COVID and a lot of people went out of business, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of people went out of business and a lot of people got 10 times richer. And it's the idea of adaptation. So I don't like to really say for sure, you know, like this is where I want to be in 5 years, but I have an idea, which is what I just said. And then from there, my plan is to just adapt as new things come up, as new trends pop up.
Do you think you'll ever use your degree, or do you think this is what you want to do for the rest of your life?
I generally don't think I'll use my degree. I don't necessarily say that this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, but I think the mentality, like I said, is risk taking. I like it right now. I'm going to go all in with it. And I'm pretty confident that, the way I'll use my degree is like maybe along the line, I am still interested in the sports science aspect. So maybe along the line, I'll use these skill sets that I'm building, the problem solving, the, marketing, which is kind of the current motif that I've been working on is the marketing, but the sales, the marketing, all these skills that I'm learning from this, like that's my thought is like worst case scenario. If this all fails, what do I come out with? A skill set. And then I can take that to something else. If I want to, if I want it to be something more related to my degree, maybe it will be, because that is still an interest of mine. But I don't think I'll ever use my degree as like a physical therapist. No, I don't. And that's why, like, you can make the argument that college is a waste, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. But by the same token, I like I said, there's a lot that I have taken away from it. A lot of connections I've made that are crucial and have been crucial in it already. Just this process of starting the electronic tribe. And yeah, I think that's essentially the vision I have right now. But anything's up for subject to change. If people want to be a DJ or start DJing, where would you tell them to start before they get to they start thinking too deep into it? That's a great question too. Because I've recently just went through that process. So I'll kind of just, all I can say is what I've done in my experience. I think the thing is, like I said, and I'm going to hammer down on this, is just finding a style. Like if you don't find a style, you're going to blend in with every other DJ. I would say, go on SoundCloud, go on Spotify, make a station, listen to certain songs, station them where you get songs that are related, listen to sets on YouTube, find what really resonates with you, what gets you to dance, what can you see people, what would you enjoy to play, what would you enjoy to play at the club, what can you see people enjoying, what type of music do you resonate with? And once you have that, the rest is easy. You just, make SoundCloud stations, select songs from there, and you'll find your style eventually, and your sound will constantly change. But I think it's always about having a sound. I mean, you look at all the successful DJs out there that have a name for themselves. They all have a specific style, and some of their styles have changed over time. But there's no DJ that is successful that produces one genre of house, one genre, like one song in the genre of house, one song in the genre of techno. And they're all over the place because you don't build a following that way. So that's the number one piece of advice I'd have to anyone that's getting into it is just like work hard and, put the time in, especially if you're trying to produce, because that takes a long time. And I'm only scratching the surface of, getting started on my production journey. But work hard and find a style. And I think those two things are what makes a successful DJ. But I'm still learning that myself. So I think, like you said, being authentic to you and knowing your style is really beneficial to creating the following that you need. Yeah, and that's why I've been encouraging people to join the electronic tribe and join the group, is because that's what I want it to be about, is for DJs to really find a style. And the more it grows, the more styles people are going to be exposed to, and I think the more styles that are present within the group, the more like diverse types of music, diverse styles of music people can come in and take on. I think that will just be an awesome thing. Is like I could see myself 5 years down the line running events where I have literally a DJ from every, like one DJ that's playing techno, maybe one that's even playing like a bass house or a UK garage or all these different styles. And then it's just like, I think it would be an awesome flow of styles like at one event. I just really like that idea of having a style, and that's what's key to, I think, starting. That's what's key to growing. That's what's key to everything within music, right? And people say that style, some people I've heard say that style is the death of creativity, but I very much disagree. I mean, you think about like artists like Picasso, like he's one of the most abstract artists of all time, but he had a very distinct style. I think that in art, you almost need some sort of boundary as a guideline. Otherwise, it's too all over the place. Your style is what defines you as an artist, and you still have a lot of room for creativity within that style. And if people want to find you, if they want to join your network, where can they find you on social media? Yeah, you can find me at Josh Heller _ on Instagram. That's like my personal page, my DJ page. You'll see some cool stuff on there. And then my new Instagram I just started is Electronic Tribe on Instagram. And on SoundCloud, I'm just getting some new music out. It's on Josh Heller on SoundCloud, and hopefully I'll be on Spotify soon enough too as well. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And make sure to follow us at the Jersey Girl Pod on Instagram, and follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Awesome. Thank you for having me. Yeah.